Okay. So the first thing you guys, the first thing we need to do is just figure out what all of this means. So what is g of x? What variable could we replace g of x with?
G of x?
G of x. What could we change that to?
Like,
instead of x, what could we make
like
it?
golf?
We could make it golf. But we're just going to make it a y. Because that's what it really means, right? It means the output. So first I'm going to just rewrite this. I haven't done anything yet, nothing fancy. We're going to change it to be a y. And then, if you remember from our notes a few weeks ago, I'm looking for my composition of functions journal. We did how you find it is you switch x and y, then solve for y. That's literally what we're going to do. So we're going to switch x and y. So just flip-flop where they are. So instead of y, what am I going to write? Boom. Everything else is exactly the same. I haven't changed the signs. I haven't changed the numbers. I haven't changed a blessed thing. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to, what am I going to do?
Solve for y.
Exactly. Solve for y. Do you guys like to fill in the blank like this? Less writing, less words. Just fill in. I'll try to do that more with y'all. Okay? And now we're just going to solve for y. So I want y all by itself. So I'm going to leave this group alone, which means I need to move this guy. How am I going to move that 2 to the other side? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Subtract. Are those like terms? No, so they can't go together, so they're just stuck. That's as good as it gets. And you just bring this whole term down. That whole group is coming down.
What's that? Like a number 6 or what? Oh, no, that's 0.
Okay? How do we get rid of an exponent or a power of 5? I'm gonna scroll. We can't distribute that out 5 times. That's too big. Let me show you something real quick. Okay, over here, I'm gonna do some scratch. I'm gonna do some scratch work in this little paper right here. Okay, if I gave you a square and I told you one side was 3 and the other side was 3, what's the area? How did you get that? So really what we did is 3 squared, which is 9, and if I want to get back to the side, I would square root. So a square root and a square cancel out. So if I have x to the 5th power, what root do I want? We want a 5 right there, and those will cancel out. So whatever the power is, that's the root. Same root, same power. I'm going to scroll back up so we can go back to the problem. So if this is power 5, I'm going to write this again just so that I have a little more space. So I'm going to say x minus 2. I'm purposely leaving some space in front. I'm purposely going to leave a little gap after the equal sign and before the parentheses. I'm purposely leaving a little space for myself. You'll get the hang of this after some practice. So now we're going to do the 5th root. So we're going to draw the square root over this whole side, and we're going to put a 5 right there because that's the root. We're going to put parentheses around this whole side, and we're going to make the 5th root. Now what happens with these 5s? They cancel out. That was the whole point of using them. Can we reduce this at all? We cannot. So we just leave that. That's okay. Now this side is y minus 2. Now again, what's our goal? What do we want by itself?
Y.
So what do I need to move? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide.
You add.
Now this is going to be on the outside of this, so we can't add it inside. So how this is going to look, make sure the line stops and then say the plus 2. Make sure that that's not underneath the line. If it was underneath the line, that means it's inside. Okay? Will somebody grab me one of those calculators, please? Okay, and then rewrite, we're going to change y to be g inverse of x. Thank you very much. So far, so good?
Okay, you see the end.
Is that better? So that's just g to the power of -1 of x, and it means inverse of g of x, and you can either check it by graphing it, or you can do composition of functions. Which you guys might think of as Fogg and Goff. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you how to graph it real quick. I don't expect you to, but if you're taking a test, 100% grab that calculator and check it. Can I show you? Can I put this on the screen? Okay. I'm going to put the equation in, and then I'll try to make it so that you guys can see. 2 plus x minus 2. That's the wrong x. There we go. Enter. Oh, it's to the 5th power. Menu 3-1. X minus 2 to the 5th power. Okay, so that's what that, can you guys see that at all? Can you guys see that? That's what the graph looks like. We're going to graph the inverse now. And remember, we want it to flip across the line y equals x. So we want it to flip diagonally. So I'm going to go menu 3-1, and I'm going to put in our new equation, which is this right here. So we're going to have g inverse of x equals all of that. When I'm looking at your work, I am looking for this as your final step. Okay, so I'm going to put that equation in now. And if you ever need help with calculators, I will 100% help you with the calculator. I don't know if you can see, but can you see how it's flipped? It flipped on that diagonal. That's a good sign. If you can draw a diagonal line and it would reflect across it, you did the right thing. So I'm not going to make you do that every time, but if you're getting stuck, this is a good thing to try. When you're ready to go on to the next problem, go ahead and open up your book. Let's knock it out. Were you still writing my stuff down? Okay, a couple people were?
Yeah.
Is that what you need?
Now, can you zoom in or something? On that one?
Is that big enough?
What does that say on number 5, check by?
Graphing or composition of functions, Fogg and Goff. Are we ready now? Go ahead and open. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. What I do to keep myself clean and organized is I'm going to draw a line across the top here so that I don't run over the top of this question. And I'm going to draw a vertical line so that I can work and work. Because sometimes I might need 2 columns. When you're ready, I'm ready. So what was step 1? If you need to, flip back.
Rewrite the variable.
Yep, as. Good. So I'm just going to think of this as okay, what's step 2? Switch what? Switch the X and Y. Boom, boom. What's step 3?
Solve for y.
Okay, how am I going to do that? Does anybody want the fraction to stay, or would we like to get rid of it?
Get rid of it.
How can we get rid of dividing by 2? Multiply by what? Parentheses around the whole thing times 2. Parentheses around the whole side, even though it's just x, I understand. What's 2 times x? 2x. What do I do with these 2 2's? The whole point is that they cancel out. Which term do we want to move? Do we want to move the group with the y, or do we want to move the number? The number, because we want that y by itself. How am I going to move that for? Way to go, Holloway. Are those like terms? Do they both have x's? Then they're not like terms. What do I do with this guy?
Is that a 4?
Yes, sir. Would you like me to zoom in even more? Let me make it refocus, okay? Oh, that's horrible. Try again. Much better. Okay. I'm going to try, but I'm like running into the camera as I'm trying to write. How do I get rid of a root? This is a cubic root. How do I get rid of that? Power of 3, exactly. So I'm going to put parentheses on this whole side. I'm going to put parentheses on this whole side. And what power are we going to use to cancel out that 3? 3, 3. What do we do with these 2 3's? Cancel out. Now I'm just going to write this at the top of my next column. I'm pausing dramatically to allow everyone to have a chance to write that down. I I still see 3 pencils going, so we're going to give you a little time. All right, so you should have this written at the top of your next column. All right. How do I get the y by itself? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Divide by what? Divide by 4. So now I just have, sorry, I can't write without hitting the camera because it's so close to the paper. What's our last step? Pardon? We can switch it if you'd like. The order is not important, although this is convention. Okay, now what's our last step? We've got y by itself. What's step 4? Look at your front cover if you need help.
Rewrite y as v of x.
Kind of. On ours, what's,
H of x.
yeah, h, and we have to have the little inverse of x. That means it's the inverse.
What's that, a -1?
Yeah, it's a -1 power, but it's a label on this situation. And you are done. I want to see if I can zoom in manually without having the camera right in the way. What does this do? It doesn't. Do you see anywhere that I can zoom? I don't. Focus, but not zoom. Colors. Yeah, nope. Looks like we're stuck. All right, let's go to the next question, okay? I'm zooming out a little bit because otherwise I can't write and it's really frustrating. What's our step 1? Almost. What's my y? Thank you. Uh-oh. I wrote my thing too long. I wrote my radical too long. That's why I scribble, scribble, scribble. Okay. Then Holloway, you already got it, so we're going to swip swap. Marvin, what's my next step? Yeah, tell me what to do. How can I solve for y? Tell me one thing I can do. I can't touch inside. This is untouchable right now. Till we move that. How am I going to move that? Raul, are those like terms? Are those like terms? No, so we can't put them together. Exactly. That's as good as we got. Jose, what do I do with this guy? Yeah, just bring it down. Angel, what's my next step? Yeah, I want to get rid of this power of 3, right? That's a cubic root. How do we get rid of the cubic root? Almost, but instead of squared means power 2, what's our power? What's our new power, y'all? Thank you. If I do it to this side, gotta do it to that side. Common mistake is forgetting your parentheses. You can't just put the power 3 on each one of these. Whole group, all together, power 3. Okay, Lisandro, what do I do?
Cross them out.
Mauricio, what do I do? What? I'm not actually sure what you're saying.
I'm not too sure.
Okay, I want the y by itself.
Oh, so you gonna subtract 3?
Almost. What's the opposite of subtracting?
Add.
Exactly. Can it go inside or does it have to go outside?
No, it's gonna go in.
Goes on the outside. You can't touch the inside of things until you simplify.
Yeah, I look for this.
Of course. Jacob, what's my last step? Yep. Inverse, G inverse of X. Then make sure you've got all the pieces. Pardon?
Could you go back up for a second?
Yeah. I don't know how far.
No, just go back down a little bit.
How's there? Okay. Can we turn to the last page and do our last 2 examples? Think we can knock those out? Let's do it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw me a horizontal line. Makes it easier for me. I'm going to draw a vertical line, and yes, I know it's out of focus. No, I don't care right now because it's macro. So I'm just drawing a vertical and a horizontal. I'm just setting up my framework, if that makes sense. So I'm just doing a line across and a line up and down. It makes it much easier for me when I'm getting ready to do my work. Okay, let's knock this out. What's step 1? We're going to come over to, I think it's Jared, right? Okay, what's our first step?
You write it as y equals 3x.
Perfect. Michael, what's my next step?
You convert the y to x.
Yeah, flip-flop your x and your y. Holloway, what's my next step?
Add 3.
Yep, kind of. This is a positive 3. The sign in front of it is implied positive, so you're gonna. Raul, are these like terms?
No.
I love that you know this. Marvin, what's my next step? This one's a little trickier than I'd like it to be. What's our goal? What do we want by itself? We want the y. Now I'm going to put a multiply sign there to help you understand what your next step's going to be. We want it, that 2 doesn't have the power on it. Only the y has the power. So we need to get rid of that 2 first.
You add 2 on both sides.
Nope. Because those are multiplied. What's the opposite of multiplication?
Divide.
We have to divide by -2.
On both sides?
On both sides.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to write this a little bit bigger. You don't absolutely have to have the parentheses. It just makes it easier to see what's going on. Jose, how are we going to get rid of that power? You stuck? I'll give you a hint. It's an exponent. To get rid of an exponent, what are we going to use? Exactly, a root. So what root is going to go here? The 5. So whatever we do to this side, we got to do to this whole side. I see a few people on their phones. I would care less if you were caught up with us. Go ahead and next is Angel, yeah? Angel, what can I do with those two powers? The root and the exponent. Cross them out. We can't touch this. That's just what it is. Okay, what's our last step? Mauricio or Lizano? Liz, I'm saying your name wrong. How do I say your name right? Lisandro. Okay. What's our last step?
Change it back to G of X.
Mm-hmm.
Change the Y back to G of X.
G inverse is equal to the 5th root minus 3 over -2. Guys, look. If I have a power of 5, I know my inverse is going to have a root of 5. My inverse, right? I know it's got to have that root in it. So if I have a root 3, what's my inverse going to have in it? Power of 3. Okay, so we know that's going to be happening. So I'm going to put that back just in case a couple people needed to finish writing that down. And then let's knock out the last one. Let's go. All right. First step, Mauricio. What's my first step? What's this going to be changed to?
A Y.
A Y. Now, I'm going to make the ends X's. You can do whatever you want, but it's easiest for me when I just change them to X's and Y's. Whatever's on the inside letter, that's your X. Okay? Jacob, what's my second step? Switch your X and your Y. Is this easy or is this hard?
It's easier.
How did last week go? I tried to give you very little work since you had to do Renaissance tests and I knew there were going to be lots of problems. Okay. Jerry, what's our next step? How do I get rid of this root? Anyone want to help him out? Pardon? Raul, what you got? How are we going to get rid of this root? Use the power of 3. Holloway, what do those 3's do? They sure do. Michael, what would you like to do next? What's our next step? It is multiplied by 2. I'm going to write this at the top of my next column. When I'm switching columns, I'll never try to do a step while I'm moving my work over. Alrighty? When you're ready, we're rolling back around to Marvin. What's our next step, Marvin? Thank you, Raul. I heard you say it to him. Okay, let Marvin try this one. Marvin, what's my last step? You can look at your front cover, it tells you. Step 4.
Rewrite. Yeah, right.
We're going to change what to f inverse of x. What's going to change to it? What letter?
Y.
Mm-hmm. Now, guys, you may have a teacher in the future, not me, but you may have a teacher or a test in the future who cares about what letters you use. So I would change those back to N's. Now, if your teacher is going to be a butthead about it, honestly, if you did N equals X, they can't fault you for that. If you wrote that down, they can't fault you for it. And that's it. You're done. Okay, make sure that you take pictures of your notes glued into your journal. If it's not glued in, I will mark it as incomplete and tell you to fix it. Make sure you have pictures of the front cover and the inside. I have to be able to see all of it or it doesn't count.